Hello everyone, this is Nick Perry at Schaefer's Investment Research with your chart slide show for Tuesday, February 19th. Today I am back with my weekly check of the broad market indices. In last week's chart slide show, we were talking about the resistance there, we were talking about the short-term support there, and the fact that the broad market indices were all stuck between those two short-term zones. We broken below resistance, we bounced into it and pulled back a little bit, and we're sort of stuck in this little mini range. And I talked about the significance of a breakdown below the lows would give us essentially a downtrend on the SPX, which was something that you wouldn't want to see if you're bullish. Meanwhile, break back above would put us back in that range there. I left last week's chart slideshow basically saying I was going to watch those two zones, the support and resistance, and the action since then has been pretty unexciting in terms of that. If you look at the SPX here, we did have a little push right back up into it, but nothing all too significant. In fact, that's a pattern we see on all the broad market indices. So I guess the takeaway here is one, sort of the lack of reaction, I guess, is worth noting. Basically, we had the breakdown from that area right there, and that found support right there, and that's where we were last week. Now, I would almost say it's slightly encouraging that we didn't see an immediate retest of these lows. I mean, it could still be coming, but if you focus on just the action right there, we hit resistance, we saw the initial rejection, but there hasn't been much follow through, and now we're right back up challenging that zone. You look at the Dow, it's just below that zone. The comp didn't quite get there, but the rut's right there. So my interpretation of that would be, I would consider it slightly encouraging. One of the things that I like to watch is how an index or a stock behaves when it hits a level that should be support or resistance. And if it hits that, basically you have an idea that, okay, this is what should happen. And that's basically what we saw up in here in this initial test. We saw that there should be some rejection, and there was, but it wasn't that severe. So again, that's what I'm keeping an eye on here. We're starting out the new week with some gains. We're right there at that resistance zone. So we're in a position where we could pop back up into this area up in here. It's hard to say whether that will happen, but I would say it's slightly encouraging that we at least held at a higher low than right there. So this test of resistance over the next couple of days, I think that's going to be real interesting to watch. And if we do see a breakdown, a rejection there, the first thing to keep an eye on would be those lows from last week. How do we behave at those? Essentially, this is giving us a narrower and narrower range. So that gives us, tighter levels to watch, and when you start to see breakdowns there, it gives a hint as to where the action may be going. So anyway, in the coming week, that's what I'm going to keep an eye on. Watch the overhead resistance. As always, stay tuned to the blog for further updates.